Who doesn't know Sherlock Holmes? The resident of 221B Baker Street never fails to amaze the audience with his way of thinking. He is one of the most popular fictional characters ever created. Portrayed by more than 200 actors on screen, he has also inspired other characters like Batman, Adrian Monk, and Conan. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional detective character created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, a Scottish author and physician. Describing himself as a consulting detective, Holmes is known for his genius-level intellect and sharp logical reasoning. The most remarkable thing about this character is that he is not a superhero, but just an ordinary human being. This means that we could learn to think like him, even if not as perfectly. As Ellen Langer, a psychology professor at Harvard University, once said, Holmes provides education to enhance thinking skills and use them to achieve more, think better, and make decisions more effectively. Daniel Kahneman, an American psychologist, also believes that there are two systems for organizing and filtering knowledge. The first system works in real time, making judgments and decisions before our mental components can consciously catch up. The second system is a slower thought process that is based on critical examination of evidence. Maria Konnikova, an author who wrote about thinking like Sherlock, explains that the first system is the Watson system, while the second one is the Holmes system. To switch from the Watson system to the more organized Holmes system, mindfulness and motivation are required. It's important to note that Holmes spent his entire life developing the habit of mindfulness. What we choose to pay attention to and what we ignore shapes how we frame information in our minds. Our brains are full of bad habits, and we need to retrain ourselves to truly be aware of the world around us. Everything we do can change our brains, but we can also rewire them in such a way that practicing mindfulness becomes less challenging over time. Attention is a limited resource. Focusing on one thing means sacrificing attention to another. We can't allocate our attention to multiple tasks at once and expect our brains to function at the same level as when we concentrate on just one thing. Our brains are not designed to do two things at once. What we often call multitasking is actually our brains rapidly switching from one task to another and then back again. Studies have shown that people who multitask are less efficient than those who focus solely on one activity. As children, we are extremely aware of the world around us. However, this awareness gradually fades as our minds become crowded with responsibilities and problems that need to be solved. The more demands there are on our attention, the less attention we have to give. Consequently, we find it harder to recognize and understand our thinking patterns, allowing our brains to control our judgments and decisions rather than the other way around. There are many ways to practice mindfulness that can teach us how to pay closer attention to ourselves and whatever is happening in our minds. A simple way to start is by taking a moment at your desk for mindfulness. Sit down and focus on your surroundings using all of your senses and emotions, accepting them openly and without judgment. To think clearly, we need distance. Forcing our minds to step back and gain perspective is challenging, especially when we're eager to solve a problem. It may seem counterintuitive to back away from an issue we're trying to resolve. However, stepping back not only encourages imaginative thinking, but also helps us resist short-term emotions that may cloud our judgment when facing challenges. Sherlock Holmes played the violin because it allowed him to disconnect from his thoughts and immerse himself in a purely physical state. He once remarked, "I consider that a man's brain is originally like a little empty attic, and you have to stock it with such furniture as you choose." This attic space serves as a creative metaphor for our thinking process. Holmes believed that the human brain is like an empty attic, and we have the choice of what furniture to place inside. Attics have two components, structure and content. Our memory attic should not mix these two aspects because it can cause us to lose valuable knowledge. To actively grow our understanding, we need to be aware that new items are constantly being forced into our attic space whenever the opportunity arises. When operating under our default system, the Watson system, we don't consciously choose what memories to store in our minds. Memories tend to save themselves automatically, or not at all, depending on the situation. Unlike this automatic process, Sherlock Holmes selectively chooses which details to store in his brain attic, recognizing which ones are important and which are not. He also understands which details are crucial for perceiving people accurately and which are irrelevant. Moreover, Holmes is an expert at identifying his own biases, those memories in his brain attic that could influence his perceptions of people or situations. Before placing anything in our brain attic, we should first observe it carefully. This is not merely a passive process of letting objects enter our field of vision. It involves knowing how to observe actively and directing attention appropriately. Which details deserve focus? Which details can be ignored? It's about understanding how to contextualize these details within a broader mental framework. What connections do you see between what you observe and what you already know? Sherlock Holmes didn't just have a better memory or remember more information than others. He saw connections that most people failed to notice. Holmes didn't think linearly. His logic was inherently imaginative. He utilized his entire mental network, recognizing potential connections between seemingly unrelated pieces of information. If we only consume information continuously without processing it, our brains become cluttered, making it harder to retrieve information later. In the art of scientific investigation, it's explained that learning to observe follows the same principles as mastering any other skill. One must practice conscious and deliberate observation repeatedly. With enough repetition, it becomes automatic, turning into a habit that eventually functions unconsciously. To enhance our foundational knowledge, Holmes believed that we should maintain a clean brain attic. However, he was also like a walking encyclopedia. His reading interests were incredibly broad, covering topics like art, music, and seemingly unrelated subjects that most people wouldn't consider relevant to his profession. It's detrimental to become overly specialized. Maintaining curiosity about a wide range of subjects and actively learning about them is crucial. Exploring topics related to your primary interest builds additional neural connections and deepens your brain's network of information. These mental activities sharpen our minds and make us more intelligent. Holmes was an expert at deciding which details mattered and which didn't. He was selective, focusing on the essentials while discarding unnecessary distractions. This ability to filter information was key to his exceptional problem-solving skills. To improve our thinking, we must also learn to prioritize relevant details and ignore irrelevant noise. This involves a conscious effort to focus our attention on the critical components of a problem or situation. By doing so, we cultivate a more organized and efficient brain attic. In conclusion, we can adopt Sherlock Holmes's way of thinking by practicing mindfulness, maintaining curiosity, and actively organizing the information we encounter. By learning to observe carefully, filtering out distractions, and building a well-structured mental network, we can enhance our cognitive abilities, make better decisions, and ultimately achieve more in life. And that's the secret behind Sherlock Holmes's genius. It's not magic, it's mastering the art of observation, focus, and logical thinking. Imagine the possibilities if we applied just a fraction of his methods in our daily lives. Holmes showed us that the world is full of clues, patterns, and connections waiting to be discovered. All it takes is a curious mind and the willingness to look beyond the surface. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Who knows? Maybe the next great detective is watching right now. Until then, stay curious, stay sharp, and see you in the next one.